something must be feeling off in your gut if you're kind of regurgitating content that doesn't sit right with you.
Yeah.
Whether it's this kind of like hustle culture, but I don't think a lot of people are recognizing what's going on right in front of their face. Something must be feeling off in your gut if you're kind of regurgitating content that doesn't sit right with you.
Yeah.
Because I'm saying that from personal experience, because I was having these conversations like last year. I think I even said it to you at the podcast show, like I need to move away from the mental health conversation. Not because like I'm fixed or anything like that. Like I still struggle. Like, as I said, I'm on propranolol for my anxiety. But I can't keep having that conversation because it doesn't sit right with me anymore. Like mental health will always be a part of my life, a huge part of my life. But there's also a hell of a lot more going on in my life just than like anxiety and depression and these type of conversations. Yes, they're important to talk about, but there are so many things that are worth talking about. And there's experts out there that can talk about like this kind of stuff. And they're the people in the nicest way possible that if you're looking for solid kind of advice on how to get better, that's how you are going to get better, by focusing on those voices.
That's so true.
These kind of conversations are so powerful because you're talking about like relatable things. You're talking about things that have happened to you in the hope that other people don't feel as shit as we did at that point.
So true.
So don't get me wrong, like and subscribe to these kind of podcasts. But if you are genuinely looking to get better, these kind of conversations are going to give you the signposts. But if you want proper help, listen to the experts, because we're not experts. We're not sitting here like with PhD. I mean, you might be. I don't know.
No,
like PhD.
Little do you know.
Yeah.
Joe with a PhD.
So you don't. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
I'd always advise like professional help, because very early days, and you probably get this as well. There's been a lot of people very early doors for me were sliding into my DMs, offloading their like real kind of like, whether it was grief, like mental, like health issues, like family issues.
You're not equipped to deal with it.
And I'm not equipped to it.
Yeah.
I tried to be, and I used to have like DMs always open in my bio, and it got to a stage where I wasn't switching off.
Couldn't do it.
And then I wasn't dealing with my own mental health because I was trying to help other people.
You're worried about them.
Yeah. And I would help anyone.
But boundaries.
But boundaries, again, another lesson from it. I didn't know what a boundary really was until I had to kind of start putting them in place to protect myself, because this was an outlet for me.
Yeah.
And I know it's an outlet for other people now to like listen in. But at the same time, like if you are struggling to a point where you need like professional help, go to the professionals, go to the doctors, because that's what's going to help you.
Speaking of which, when you say professionals, did you ever go to see one firstly?
Yes.
You did.
So I had therapy. I had 2 therapy sessions, I believe it was 2 or 3, in my mum's home.
Okay.
Where she was. It was just like a family therapist. That kind of opened the floodgates of how I was feeling.
Okay.
Then the pandemic hit. So then it was like, well, I can't go on a waiting list, because these floodgates, anyone who's been to therapy will know, like it opens the floodgates, like
Band-Aids and ripped off.
It's going to rip you to shreds.
Yeah.
Like for the long run, like stick with it, because it will get better. So yeah, that's when I started the podcast, and then I started to start to speak to people about it all. But then it's only really been in the past 2 years where I've really thrown myself into therapy, like one-on-one sessions. And then she dumped me, actually. You just brought that back up.
Your therapist dumped you?
She dumped me around Valentine's Day. And obviously, my sense of humour is obviously what quite wrongfully or rightly gets me through these situations.
Okay.
And we were having this conversation. She was like, I feel like, you know, you've done really well. Like you've applied this stuff that we've worked through, like this, that and the other. But I think I've took you as far as I can take you. And I was like, are you dumping me?
Yeah.
And she was like,
not you, it's me.
Yeah.
I was like,
all right.
This isn't working out.
Yeah. So I was like, therapy. Yeah. Completed that. So on to the next one. But I think it just because it got to a stage where at first I was a bit like, well, what am I going to do? Like I've kind of relied on you. But then through therapy, I found, well, actually all the tools that I needed were already there. I just needed to apply them and have that confidence that I was going to get through that tough period or whatever life was going to throw at me.
Yeah.
So I advise it to anyone. But yeah, and the therapist that I had was, past tense. She was incredible.
Okay.
I'm starting to find that with a lot of things is everyone has the right ideas, and I think deep down everyone knows what they have to do a lot of the time, but people just don't like to execute on it. And I would massively procrastinate and be like, I'm going to do it, like I've got this idea, or I know I need to do this, like I need to get up at this time, and I would never do it. Now I've just started doing things. I think 90% of the problem is just people just don't do it. And people just worry and they wind themselves up, and it gets progressively worse and worse. And it comes down to the underlying factor. They still haven't done it. The minute you've done it, you figure stuff out. You're like, oh, that worked. That didn't work. That worked. I'm going to push forward. And you go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But you're up here now rather than down here. Instead of just having 50,000 ideas and thoughts, I'm going to get up at this time and maybe do it once and then just not do it again. And I think that's the biggest thing, whether it's in business, in life, with your mental health, fitness, relationships, is you just need to do it. And I don't know why more people don't. It sounds so easy, but it's actually like very draining doing it as well.
Focused on the goal. Everyone is focused on like the end result rather than the steps to like get to that result.
Agreed.
And I think it is, whether it's comparison, whether it's this kind of like hustle culture, but I don't think a lot of people are recognizing what's going on right in front of their face because they're too busy looking at what everyone else is doing or focusing on an unachievable goal. I know I'm never ever going to have a six-pack, so if I was holding up to that like standard of like that's it. Why did you laugh?
You need to.
That wasn't a funny moment.
Jesus, Tom.
Exactly. I ran here from Coventry.
Run back to Coventry.
This top was white. But no, it's like if I constantly like focus on like, I know that that's probably not a goal that I'm going to achieve, but it's not going to stop me from like looking after like my physical health. Like I don't know. That might not be what it is, but I think from personal experience, like I know I'm never going to like have a podcast that is, you know, on the level of like the Diary of a CEO. Is it going to stop me from doing what I love? Absolutely not. So I could sit here and be like, and to be fair, it's a lot of conversation. I actually fired a client because of this mentality. They came in with this impression of like, I want to be Stephen Bartlett, I want to be Joe Rogan, I want that kind of vein. I was like, I'm not going to work with you. Stephen Bartlett is Stephen Bartlett. He has an incredible team around him. Joe Rogan's the same. Like, you know, whatever your opinions of them, like, but they have worked to get to where they are. Like, you're not just going to step in front of a microphone one day and then bam, you're being played on like the aeroplanes and stuff or whatever he's on now. He's everywhere. But you need to kind of, I guess, be happy with who you are before you go into any form of like business, relationship, or like hobby even. Focus on what you can control, like take a look inwards before you start kind of, I guess, projecting, because I think that's definitely where some of my anxiety comes from, because I'm comparing myself. And it's those days where I have to really check myself. I was like, well, actually, you've done okay just plodding along by yourself. So it could have very easily stopped me in my tracks. But if you love something, you got a passion for it, keep doing it. So that was a rant and a half.
No,
I completely
I think
agree.
it is. It's important.
My dad told me last year when I sort of started up the business, started up the podcast and everything, he was like, I know you're focused on the end goal, but he was like, please just treat this journey like a train journey. Like, look out the window, enjoy the ride, enjoy the views, because this will fly by. And this is the biggest problem that everyone makes, is they always focus on the last thing. And when they get there, they realize the most important thing was the last 5-6 years of the journey that they just completely disregarded because they were too focused on that final goal. And that always stuck with me. I said this to you when we were recording probably our 4th or 5th episode. I was like, I'm just going to enjoy every moment, enjoy every conversation, every setup beforehand, every meal afterwards. Like when we did the 1 year anniversary, that was my thing. Is like we all go out for food afterwards, we chat, we organize, we bring the guests in, we talk with them, and we just have a good time. And I'm trying to actively enjoy that more, because I'm always like, what's next? That's my personality. What's next? What's the end goal? I need to go there. Like, why am I not here? And it's like, maybe you're not here because the guy you're comparing yourself to is 43 and you're
exactly
half his age. So I'm now trying to enjoy the journey more, as hard as it is, because you do want to get there, because you're like, what if I don't get there?
Yeah.
But I think that's been the most important thing in like overall satisfaction for myself in the last few months.
I think that's where happiness comes from as well. Like I was saying about like before I went on holiday and stuff like that, like I had this real toxic trait. Like you could say what I've done is like incredible. You look at the names and stuff like that, it's all really flashy. It doesn't sit with me enough because I know this podcast has done what it needs to do. Like it's completely changed my life and some of the people around me as well. And it's given me this confidence that my voice is enough. If the fact that I get to keep doing it is phenomenal. But when I went away recently and the podcast went to #1 whilst I was away, I was made to celebrate. If I was at home, I would have just posted about it on social media and probably would have went to bed, got up the next day and just carried on as if it was a normal day. The people I was with made me celebrate. They made me recognize.
Up and notice, yeah.
I was like, well, tonight we're going to kind of like celebrate. I even got a tattoo of like a waffle on my leg.
That's awesome.
To celebrate. But like the whole group got them. And it's
That's
like,
cool.
it made me,
that's
and
really cool.
honestly, I've come away from, I mean, I think people come away from Benidorm with a lot worse than what I came away with. I've come away with this like validation that it's okay to celebrate like the wins.
And be present.
It's okay to give yourself on the pat on the back and recognize just how hard you have worked. And to like be, like you said, be present, like relish the moment. Because years ago, if you said like, oh, one day I'm gonna have a #1 podcast, I'd be like, probably not. Like that's probably never going to happen. I'd probably throw in the towel because that was the standard. Whereas now, like I just take every episode as it is, every opportunity as it is, and just as long as I've got a smile on my face and I'm not being a dick, I think
all the time.
Yeah, all the time. It is getting very cold in here, though.
You talked about patting yourself on the back. I wasn't going to do this, but kudos to Joe. Joe's in a car crash this morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This is how
you kept that
mentally tough Joe was in a car crash this morning, and I was like, mate, don't even worry about the filming. He was like, no, I'm going to be there. Gets there early, same as always, mentally tough. And I just want to say kudos to you, mate. I was going to say on camera.
Thank you very much.
Well done, yeah.
Thank
you. Cheers.
God.
7 a.m. this morning in a car crash.
Yeah, no, not ideal.
Filming
Are you okay?
Yeah, no, I think it was weird because
Frightening.
I was at home talking to Tom and I was like, no, I think I'll be all right, but I need this to not think about that kind of stuff, and actually it really helps me.
Yeah.
So
you're not concussed or anything, like.
We'll find out afterwards if I look back and I'm like,
He's just speaking like
A little bit of dribble
I'm
on you.
actually fine. Like it wasn't that bad. So I think Tom was like, mate, just stay at home. I can do it on my own. I was like, no, I love this. This is me. Like I need this. I was looking forward to it. I'm glad I'm here and it's not sitting at home worrying about it, which again comes back to what you said earlier, is like do the things you love. And obviously it wasn't a great start today, but it's been a good end to it. So no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, bad play to you.
I know. Frightening. When you messaged me this morning, I was literally like, you're coming still, like you're coming to film.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I was
love
just
it.
like, you know what, fair fucks to you, mate.
It's been a waste of time, but it's been.
we're gonna watch back and after the show's gonna be like, did I ask you questions?
Siobhan didn't press record. It's just the whole thing's a waste of time.
He's gonna be like, did I ask you questions? I'll be like, mate, you didn't even speak the whole time.
Yeah.
You were just sat there. Like,
Vegetable. Yeah.
I was zoned out in one podcast we did. I won't go on too much with Elliot a wing because I had like really bad news before I went in.
Yeah.
And I remember the camera cut to me when we were editing it afterwards, and I was literally just sitting there like.
Have you ever
And
had
Joe was just like nudging me. I was like, sorry.
Have you ever had like a bad guess where it has been a struggle?
I've had a couple bad guesses.
It's
before Joe.
We're
We
very
didn't air them.
We're very fortunate.
It was so nice of them to come on, but it just like they thought it was like an interview type thing where they were like, "Okay, ask me the question now," and I was like. It's not how podcasts work.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Yeah.
The beauty about having someone like you on as well, because you have one, you know how those sort of the podcast works and the back and forth conversation. And I like to have a sort of more free flowing conversation, whereas Tom loves the analytics, he loves the data, so that's why we sort of bounce each other off quite well. So there have been a few occasions where you're really fighting to get information from someone, sort of drawing blood from a stone.
It's hard.
What about you?
Oh, I've had loads. There's some episodes that will never see the light of day.
Really? Okay.
There was one in particular that and I'm really sad about it because she has a very, very famous song, probably one of the most famous dance tracks, in my opinion.
Right.
And so you might show
Name
me
and
love.
shame.
Show Me Love.
Okay.
Robin S.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of a backstory because when my mum was in a coma, obviously I mentioned at the start, like she's like a big 90s music fan, so we were playing her music while she was in a coma, and that song was almost like on repeat. It wasn't on repeat, there were other songs, because an absolute torture for anyone. No wonder she didn't wake up. I'm not joking, I can't say that, it was my experience.
Say whatever you want, man. Say whatever you want.
She got there in the end. And basically, reached out and like, would love to. And then I think it was about a day before the recording, I got sent a list of questions, and they were the only questions that I was allowed to ask. Right. And it's the only person that I've ever gone back to and said, like, I really appreciate this, but this isn't how this works. But thank you for your time. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to say no at this point.
But that's lovely that despite how desperate you would have been to have her on, you were not willing to sacrifice to the credentials you'd given yourself, and ultimately you're
authentic.
No, exactly.
It has to
be authentic.
Yeah. And I think it's rule number one with anyone, and advice for you guys will all know this, is like, if you are starting a podcast, like, people are going to be listening for the guests, but the main reason they'll be listening is because they relate to you. They kind of buy into you. And if you're not being like yourself, or
you get found out as well. You get found out.
There's only so many times that you can kind of show up as that person before the mask is going to like slip. So
true.
Why bother? Just be yourself from the get-go.
Absolutely spot on. You mentioned mum there. I wanted to ask you how her journey's been since then and how you've coped with that.
Yeah, it's been a tough one. Like, there's still days like it really kind of like rips me to shreds, and I get like these real waves of sadness. Like this weekend I was away like in Exeter and then went to Bristol, and it's always when I'm in these moments, like these beautiful places, that I get this wave of sadness of like, my mum's never going to be able to do this. And it really hurts, but I have to kind of take the positive from the situation, because it nearly destroyed me. It got to a stage where I was questioning everything of like, I don't think I want to be here anymore, because I was that much of a rock bottom. But she's okay. That's the main thing. Like, she's well looked after. She's got her sense of humor, her personality. Like, her body is very limited in terms of what she can do.
She's still there. But
she's still here.
Yeah.
Like, she's still got that sharp, witty kind of personality, and I wouldn't change it for the world now.
That's awesome.
It's odd, because I feel like we're kind of grieving for someone who isn't dead, or like we're grieving for a life that she could have had. But at the same time, it's also created a beautiful one. Yeah. Because my relationship with my mum is 10 times better now than what it ever was before.
Your appreciation for things just changes.
Massively. Yeah. And my ability to kind of like dust off the little kind of annoyances and the minor inconveniences are next to none now, because in the grand scheme of
who cares?
Scheme of things, God, I absolutely butchered that, but
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
see, it doesn't matter.
We
just laugh it off and we just carry on.
Yeah,
because I'm a big believer in, and I say it quite a lot. It's become a bit of a tagline, but that woman has taught me so much. But she's taught me that the only thing I can't do is give up, and everything now is just cherry on top, because my mum can see it. She got to one of my live shows and I crumbled. Like, the first face I saw when I walked out on stage was hers, and I just went,
oh no. But lovely.
She saw it. Yeah. She saw the impact, and I hope, one day when it's inevitably all going to come to an end, but the legacy, I think, that she is going to leave and the podcast is going to leave, I think it's quite a powerful one.
Absolutely.
And that's what's important to me, not Ed Sheeran.
Absolutely spot on, mate. Well said.
Amazing.
Well said.
Thank you so much for coming on.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming, mate.